Good morning, my dear brothers. Welcome to our biomedical ethics class. Now, this is a class on palliative care. Actually, on our class number 18, towards the end of our class 18, that is a video uploaded in the YouTube, we began palliative care and we just gave introduction. Then later, due to some technical problem, we couldn't upload the next class, that is 19th. So this class would be in the YouTube, class number 19th of palliative care. Good. WHO would define palliative care in the following words. Palliative care is an approach that improves the quality of life of patients and their families facing the problems associated with life-threatening illness through the prevention and relief of suffering by means of early identification and impeccable, or there is another word for impeccable, would also mean faultless or flawless assessment and the treatment of pain and other problems, physical, psychological and spiritual. So normally we go to doctor, we go to hospital to get treatment and get cured. But in the case of palliative care, it is not that you are getting cured, but then the quality of life is improved. It is not exactly that they are going to treat the cancer. Of course, they will be treating, but the disease, it is already advanced. You are in the advanced stage level of your sickness, be it cancer or any other grave disease that which cannot be cured. But then in the palliative care, they make sure that you are given the proper treatment where your quality of life is improved. You are not just abandoned because you are affected with HIV or you are affected with AIDS, or any other cancer which is contagious. So in this case, the palliative care, it could be done at home, palliative care could be done at the hospital, or it could be done a particular institute, where the private sectors and companies are there, but you may have to pay heavily so that they are taking care of you. Day and night there are nurses and doctors, they take care of you, but it is not exactly to cure or heal the disease which is already in the advanced stage of cancer or HIV, whatever, but then they make sure you live your life happily and pass the final stage of your life that with the quality of life. That is why I have put it here. The WHO has put it that your physical, psychological and spiritual, all these three aspects are met and well taken care in the palliative care. Now we shall see two video clips where they explain about what is exactly palliative care.
Difficult to talk about death or dying, what our end-of-life care looks like and how we might be cared for as we age or become seriously ill. You might think it isn't necessary because you're too healthy or too young, or you might not understand what's involved in palliative and end-of-life care and what steps you need to take to make a future plan. You might not know how to start the conversation or want to upset your loved ones by talking about it. But as hard as it might be to start the conversation, it's an important one to have. Talking about your wishes early empowers you to make plans that are in line with the things that you value most. Palliative care is commonly mistaken as being the medical care you receive only when death is imminent, but it's much more than that. Palliative care is about improving the quality of life when facing a life-limiting illness. It focuses on your care needs and aims to prevent and relieve suffering by treating not only the physical, but also the emotional, social, and spiritual symptoms for you and your family. End-of-life care is about the palliative care services that you and your family receive when you're facing the end of your life. It often involves many health professionals, bringing together a range of skills to support your illness and your family. Wherever possible, end-of-life care is provided where you and your family want, at home, in hospital, in hospice or a residential aged care facility. Palliative care is available to anyone with a life-limiting illness and can be accessed through referral from your GP, medical specialist or other health provider. So how do you talk about this important issue? Some of us will find discussing palliative care easier than others. There are many factors at play: your mindset, values, beliefs, culture, health, family relationships, and so on. It's important to remember there's no right or wrong way to talk to your loved ones, and conversations like this are likely to happen over time. The Department of Health website has useful resources that may help. The next important step after having conversations with your family and healthcare professionals is to create a plan that documents your wishes. This is known as an advanced care plan, or an advanced care directive in some states, which is the process of planning your medical care in advance, regardless of your age or health. It's important to start talking early about what matters to you, to maintain as much control as possible over your end-of-life care choices. Have the conversation with your loved ones the way it works best for you. Visit www.health.
As a medical student, that was what I was taught. That is what is taught to medical students even today. Diagnosis, cure. And when cure is not possible, sorry, we cannot do anything, and they are sent home. This happens in 80% of the global population. It is someone's right to be treated as a person and not just as a container of disease. Palliative care is treatment aimed at improving quality of life, whether it be physical problems like pain or vomiting, or emotional problems like anxiety or fear or depression, or social problems like stigma, isolation. All these are identified, and you take away what you can and thus improve the quality of life. We are not negating the disease. The disease is there, has to be addressed, but at the same time, the person as a whole is given attention to. You can call it holistic care if you like. Opioid medicines like morphine, which are unavailable in most of the world. We call it opiophobia, fear of opioid substances. The word morphine seems to strike terror. You talk about another drug like fentanyl, which belongs to the same class. It is not familiar, so that's okay. That kind of opiophobia is a part of the problem, but the way we use it in cancer, for example, as tablets, it's very, very, very unlikely that it can cause addiction, but the name has that association. And because the name has that association, the fear is profound. Possibly following America's war on drugs, very stringent regulations came up in many countries which prevented the availability and use of these medicines. The cost of palliative care, etc., are not really major barriers. They can be overcome. So we have this paradoxical situation in developing countries, among poor people. They cannot get the inexpensive morphine, but they can get a transdermal fentanyl patch which costs 150 times as much. Both are covered by the same regulations, but the expensive medicines are available. This is a global issue. It really hurts in the developing countries. Death is the inevitable consequence of life. The medical system has the responsibility to make that life and that death, when the time comes, as easy as possible.
Good, my dear brothers. From the last two clips, we learned that palliative care just aims at the improvement or improving the quality of your life. Here we are not, as Dr. Rajagopal as he addressed, we are not negating your illness, your sickness, but we are trying to improve the quality of your life. We are not just forgetting that what you call the sickness that you have, but then together with your sickness, we are taking care of the whole person, himself or herself, the holistic view or holistic approach of the whole person. Not just the sickness alone is important, but you, the person who carries, you are also much more important. So we take care of the sickness and the person himself. But as he says, some diseases, they are incurable. Since they are in advanced stage, they are incurable, but then we take care of you, make sure that you live or you pass your life, the final stage of your life, happily with with all the dignity and the respect that you should have, no matter whether you are sick, you are having this sickness or that sickness, HIV or what cancer, whatever be, but then still as a human person you carry the dignity of any other. So that is what doctor was was narrating about palliative care. Good. Now, palliative care seeks to provide comfort to patients in terminal phases of illness. The term is derived from the Latin to clo. Hospice, a home, hospice is a term used, a home providing care for the sick or those people who are terminally ill or people who are down with a sickness permanently that cannot be easily cured or is there till the end of their life. So, hospice refers to a terminal care often delivered at the patient's residence, and it can also refer to specialized unit devoted to care of the dying. Sometimes palliative care is considered the type of care used when there is nothing more than to. When there is nothing more than when there is nothing more to do. Sometimes a family can imagine in the family people who are affected with HIV or other, for example, corona. We can't think of keeping a patient who got corona. Sure, we are quarantining and we are putting him in the hospital. We maintain distance. As soon as we see a corona patient, we consider him as untouchable, or we can't even face him. We are afraid because we are afraid that the corona may affect us also. It may get into our body. So always we maintain distance. We try to avoid that patient. But then in the case of HIV or cancer, etc., sure, it is not, it could be contagious, but if you could take care yourself and if you give proper treatment, sure, we can live together. There is no problem. There are a lot of institutions where sisters are taking care of HIV students, HIV patients. They are living together. This is also possible. This is also possible. So in the case of palliative care, we can't simply deny, neglect the person himself or herself, but we are trying to give them quality of life, improve their quality of life, especially towards their end of life when they are affected with such sicknesses. Palliative care, it makes less severe the sickness. In healthcare, to palliate means to lessen the severity of pain or disease without curing or removing the underlying cause. We are trying to lesser the pain or the depression and the loneliness and what you call a psychological, what you call a illness that you are facing, when you are down with sickness. So we are trying to address the palliative care those sicknesses, in order to that you may come back strong, and you may be the normal person. Of course the sickness is there, but we are not removing the sickness, but we are trying to address the psychological factors, spiritual, emotional, etc. So instead of being alone, we are trying to give you company. We are trying to tell that we are with you, to help you, to accompany you, and to what you call, to improve the quality that you have. Good. Now palliative care, it would mean again improve the quality of your life. For patients who are facing serious illness, they are facing serious sickness, we are not abandoning them. We know that it is incurable, the sickness is there permanent, but then we are trying to help them, give them good company, and make them feel at home, and tell them that we are there for them, to care and whatever need and help they might need towards their end of their life, as well as for their family and friends. It is not only for the what you call the man who is down with the sickness, also the family, friends, relatives, we are also supporting them morally, psychologically, spiritually, that he is not, that patient is not alone, or he is not abandoned, but we are there to take care. So this palliative care could be done at home. You could hire a doctor or nurse who can work for you day and night, taking care of the patient, or it could be also palliative care center in the towns and cities. You might find there are private companies, they are running, but it is a bit expensive. Also in the hospitals also there are dedicated rooms and service are being rendered to those patients who seek palliative care in the big hospitals. Now we shall see the church and the spiritual care of the sick. Palliative pastoral care is not about adding days to life, but about adding life to days. You are not what you call curing the sickness, but then you are making the life more happier. You are improving the quality of the life. That is why I have put it. And it is not about adding many more days to life, but rather should be what you call adding life. Though you may be living 1 day or 1 week or 1 month, but we add more life even in that day that you are going to live. It does not matter whether the dying process is short or long. What matters is to ensure the best possible quality of life until the very end through mindful companionship. Palliative pastoral care is a path towards a personal dying where the person is taken seriously as an individual until the last moment of his life. Palliative care includes medical assistance, careful care, psychological support, and counseling that addresses the spiritual needs of the dying. This all I have said. A pastoral carer helps people to consider big issues such as the meaning of life, and helps them to find answers to spiritual concerns and questions. I am sure when you are in the parish as a parish priest, I am sure a lot of people come to you clarifying or sharing with you the problems that they have, especially the meaning of life. Meaning of life. Why do I exist? I am a good Catholic. I come on Sundays, even other days, regular to the sacraments. I receive communion. I make good confession. But in spite of all this, I am affected by this sickness, so-called cancer. I am affected with the sickness, so-called HIV positive. So there are people who come and ask you. So as a pastor, you should have the good understanding about the palliative care and the meaning of life, to help and give them good advice, give them good counsel to those people who come to you in the parish when they are down with the sickness and when they don't know how to move about with their life. Sometimes they may be wanting to what you call commit suicide, or because they want to end their life because of the sickness. They can't bear that, they cannot undergo. So in such situations, as a good pastor in the parish, you should be able to explain them the meaning of life, the importance of life that God has given, no matter what sickness, what pain you have, but then go ahead, carry on and live your life till the natural death. In other words, pastoral care workers provide spiritual support and guidance. Within palliative care, pastoral care is available to people of all religious backgrounds, cultures and beliefs. I still remember when I was studying as a student, I used to go to the hospitals as a what you call voluntary, offer mass for the sick and give them communion. You may have to go to their individual rooms, talk to them, listen to them, and give them proper guidance, psychological and spiritual support to those patients who are at the hospital. Sometimes they may be feeling lonely, they are abandoned, but when they talk to a priest, to a pastor, when they share their problems, they feel much relieved, they feel much comfortable. It is the burden that they have released after sharing. Sometimes this burden may be heavier than the what you call burden of sickness that they have. All that we need is listen to them, help them, give them proper guidance and advice as a good pastor. This includes people who do not have any religious beliefs or affiliations. Spiritual concerns in palliative care often relate to questions about the meanings of suffering, life and death. I'm sure people will come and ask you, the purpose of life. If I am a good Catholic who is practicing my faith, why should I face this persecution, or why should I face this suffering, or why should one of my family member happen to die in an accident or of sickness, anything. So people come and ask you, clarify about the meaning of life. So as a good pastor, as you have learned here in biomedical ethics, about abortion, about euthanasia, about palliative care, you should be able to speak and convince the faithful who come to you when they clarify about the doubts such as the meaning of life. When people are living with a terminal illness, these issues can become extremely important. From the earliest times of Christianity, caring religious and lay people felt it their duty to open their homes and communities to care of the sick and suffering. In the first centuries, our people helped each other in caring the sick. The origin of hospitals and hospice dates back to these early times and was further advanced by such champions as we have Saint Francis of Assisi and Saint Clare of Assisi, who founded the first orders of religious in the 13th century to care for the sick and the poor and the needy. Again, in the 17th century, Saint Vincent de Paul's communities founded hospitals and hospices to provide nursing care. It was a time during what you call a World War where a lot of soldiers and people were affected by this war, and they were looking for people who would come and help them, who would come and nurse them and care them. So Vincent de Paul opened the societies, his communities. He asked his own sisters, daughters of charity, to nurse, to care for those poor people and those people who were affected in the World War. Again, in the 19th century, we have Saint Jean Juhan of France began an order dedicated to serving the indigent sick and later developed nursing homes. Again, we have another Cicely Saunders, a 20th century nurse, social worker. She is also physician, trained at Sisters of Charity Hospital in London, and founded the modern hospice movement, where in London she took care of hundreds of people who were abandoned in the streets. Good. In the more recent times, we have our Blessed Mother Teresa of Calcutta. We all know her work and dedication that she gave the streets of Calcutta. She was famed for her community's care for India's dispossessed, or so-called deprived and dying people. Saint Pope John Paul II, in his words and by his personal example, taught the world to love the elderly, to embrace the redemptive suffering, and to approach death from the perspective of eternity. We all become elderly, I'm sure. I may be now in 30s, you may be in 20s. Sure, after 30, 40, 50 years, sure, we are going to be elder, 70 years, 80 years, whatever be. I'm sure we will have our own sicknesses to battle. We may have our own sicknesses we have to battle with, but it doesn't mean that life ends there. No, we have to give those elderly people, or when we are elderly, the care, the quality of life should be improved using the palliative care. We all become elderly, and if we do not learn to treat the elderly well, that is how we will be treated, said Pope Francis. Now we know in many families, even including Catholic, how elderly people are treated, be it your own grandparents or your own mothers who are 70s, 80s and 90s. Sometimes we see how their own children or grandchildren treat them. They don't give them proper food, they don't care them, they don't take them to hospital. So if we are going to treat your own parents and grandparents, when you become old, how will your own children or grandchildren will treat you? That is what Pope Francis is asking. We have Catechism of the Catholic Church, CCC, tells that the dying should be given attention and care to help them to live their last moments in dignity and peace. Is very important. Sometimes it is not noticed in our Indian context. When people are sick or terminally ill, we don't give them proper treatment, or we don't respect them. We just neglect them, ignore them. We don't consider them even as they are humans. They are our own grandparents, they are our own parents, but sometimes we treat them in such a way we don't even consider them as humans, until less than animal. To animal we give them so much care, our own pet dogs, etc. But then to our own grandparents and parents, we just abandon them, and we just we close our eyes. Now, role of a pastor. Many Catholic physicians and nurses will agree that patients are helped with prayer, and many of them do wish to pray. I'm sure when you meet your parishioners or known people who are in the hospital, when you come and pray, they feel much more relaxed. Even the saints, doctors and nurses, they have witnessed, given the testimony, the medicine that which cannot be cured, a sickness, a illness, a prayer could heal the sickness. A couple of years back, I read in the paper that when a couple in the Wednesday audience in Rome, Vatican, when they brought a child who had a brain tumor, Pope Francis touched, he touched and just gave a blessing. After his touch and blessing, when they returned home, they found that the brain tumor, which was said to be or considered by the science, by the doctors, incurable, cannot be treated, with the touch of Pope Francis, it got disappeared in the brain. That's what so many testimonies, many witnesses are coming up. You go to Divine Potter Retreat Center, after each retreat they come and give their witness, their testimony, saying, I came with this sickness, my heart pain or knee pain or back pain, which cannot be treated or is very expensive, but after spending 5 days in the retreat in prayer, God has listened to me, and God has cured my sickness, which is incurable, which the science and physician considered to be expensive and cannot be cured with the medicine, but with a small prayer, with a small touch on the head, things are getting cured and miracles are taking place. So when you go to visit your own family people or parishioners who are in the hospital, kindly pray for them, touch them and bless them and pray for them. I'm sure with your words and with your blessings, sure God might work many more miracles. So it is important for those of us who care for the sick to ask them about their religious affiliation and spiritual needs, and then following their cues and respectful way to encourage them to pray, and in the case of Catholics, to receive the last sacraments. Very important. We should also pray for our patients, and when we think they would like it, we have to pray with them. We know that Jesus is the divine physician. We read in the Gospels how Jesus healed many and expelled their demons. He healed them, both their body and soul. The story of a paralytic reveals Jesus' divinity and compassion that we read in Matthew 9 verses 2 to 8. The paralytic's friends take him to Jesus to be healed. It is not hard to imagine the smile that our Lord's face as he saw the friends lowering the man down through the roof. You know, where Jesus was there, the house was full, the whole street was full. The people were so much crowded. They want to come and just touch and get the blessing so that their sickness could be cured. So in this situation, a paralytic man being helped by his own friends, they bring him where? The top of the house. They remove the roof and they lower him from the top of the roof. You can imagine, they are lowering it. And when Jesus sees, of course it is not there, but you can imagine the smile and the faith of those companions of that particular paralytic man, that they want to help him and what you call get rid of his what you call his sickness. So the paralytic's friends take him to Jesus to be healed. So Jesus was moved by their faith. The gospel tells us when Jesus saw their faith, he said to the paralytic, "Son, your sins are forgiven." After healing his soul, Jesus also cures his body, the sickness that man had. All physicians, nurses and and therapists are like the friends of the paralytic. They help the patient, but they know God is the one who cures. Their help is much more involved and sophisticated than that of the paralytic's friends, but still they are aiding the healing properties of the body, which God in his wisdom has proved. The anointing of the sick. The anointing of the sick gives the patient grace to suffer with Christ, with faith and love. After receiving this sacrament, some patients recover their health. Usually we have a misunderstanding of the last sacrament. When you give last sacrament, people think that the last sacrament is to die soon. No, it is not to die soon, but then it is to recover, get back your normal or get back your life. It is not to die the next day or the same day. No, we give the last sacrament so that the people who are down with the sickness may regain is what you call his previous or his normal health. So after receiving the sacrament, some patients recover their health, but most are strengthened and sustained in the faith and united more to the sufferings of Christ. The Christian should seek to be confirmed to Christ, beginning with baptism and confirmation, and later on also in illness and in death. In illness, he is not alone. The patient or suffering man, he is not alone. Christ is with him. That is what the church teaches. Christ is with him, and the community of the faithful always pray with him. Sure, when the parish, when somebody is sick, sure, we the parishioners along with the pastor, we visit and we give them the moral and psychological support that we can, saying that we are there to help you, we are there to pray for you. Well, in this manner, we as healthcare professionals, be it a priest, chaplain in the hospital, lay persons, religious ministering the sick, we are like a sacrament of God's presence to the sick. In our conversations with the patients, we get to know them and to understand a little bit of their suffering, which goes beyond the physical, affecting their whole being and the relationship to God, family, and their friends. Medical residents and nursing students need to learn how to speak with the patients, about their spiritual needs, understandably without imposing their beliefs. Finally, a good pastor needs to know the following answers, which are commonly asked by the patients during the pastoral care of the palliative and sick. Now, what are the questions they are asking? Does my life have meaning? So you, Bala, when you are a parish priest, when your parishioners, they come and ask, Father, what is the purpose and meaning of my life? Bala, you should be able to explain them, the origin and purpose of our life, life that we received from God as a gift. We should enjoy our life We should celebrate our life, till the natural death. So why is this happening to me? Why this particular suffering, or why this particular sickness happening only to me? Being a good Catholic, being what you call practicing my faith, practicing all the sacraments, go to church every day, but why these sufferings to me? And again they ask, who am I? Who am I in this world? Why this is happening only to me, to my husband, to my family? Should be able to answer. How will my children cope without me? Suppose when I'm a cancer patient, I'm almost at the final stage, I may be, the date is given of next month to die. What about my children without me? How they are going to survive? Father, will you help? What is your response? So when they ask you, they should be able to help them and advise them and give them good counseling. How will I cope up when my loved ones die? Suppose when my own children, my husband die of some accident, or what you call it. How will I find the meaning of my life? How will I pass my life without my husband or without my children? What does it mean to die? What does it mean to die? The Christian death, Christian suffering. Where do we go when we die is another question. Where do we go when we die? Will I be reunited with my loved ones after death? In heaven. Is there a God? Finally they ask, is there a God? These are the questions commonly known or respected in your pastoral ministry. People come and clarify, people come and ask you to explain more about